Hello, welcome to The Conversation on News Central Television. This is a program where we bring you up to speed with all the political happenings on the African continent. I am Gbenga Aborowa, and I'll be joined by Rita Omodia shortly. But on the program today, we will look at the situation from Kenya on the petition seeking to remove 4 electoral commissioners dubbed as the Cherera 4, who refused to endorse the results of the last presidential election that led to the declaration of William Ruto as the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya. We'll also be talking about the fight that broke out in Sierra Leone's parliament in Freetown during a heated debate by lawmakers on a proposed change to the electoral system to allow for proportional representation in next year's elections. We'll begin with the Kenyan story, where Kenyan members of parliament are hearing a petition seeking the removal of 4 independent electoral and boundaries commission officials who refused to endorse the results of the last presidential election that saw President William Ruto defeating his rival Raila Odinga with 50.5% of the vote. The IEBC commissioners, vice-chairperson Juliana Cherera, Francis Mathenge, Irene Massett, and Justice Inyangaya said the result was erroneously aggregated. The petitioners, who include 3 individuals and the Republican Party, accuse the commissioners of a serious violation of the law, gross misconduct and incompetence. The Azimio La Umoja One Kenya coalition leader and Ruto's main challenger in the elections, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, has described the ongoing petition before the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee of the National Assembly as a political witch hunt, adding that the outcome of the petition is already predetermined and seeks to unlawfully kick them out of the IEBC. Meanwhile, President William Ruto has told off the Azimio La Umoja One Kenya coalition presidential candidate, that's stressing they should allow Parliament an opportunity to bring the Cherera 4 to justice. Now, join us live from Nairobi to discuss this and more. We have Allan Odero, who's a political analyst, who joins from the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. A warm welcome to you, Allan, and thanks for joining us. Now, Allan, who are the petitioners and what are the charges against these 4 electoral commissioners from the IEBC?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure always to be on this show. So it's a developing story in the country. So our constitution provides for Kenyan citizens, civilians to approach the parliament and file a petition in case they've got any issue that they want to raise. So this touches on the conduct of the 4 dissenting electoral commissioners arising out of last year's disputed presidential elections. Yeah, so a number of people came forward to present petitions. They are individuals within their own right, but they are more or less, I would say, proxies in the sense that a number of them are associated with major political formations in this country who felt aggrieved by the actions of the 4 commissioners. Initially, we had a political party called the Kenya Farmers Party, which is closely aligned to the current ruling coalition, which drafted a petition. There also had groups of, I would say, political activists who also filed petitions. So the petitions have so far been consolidated and submitted to, presented to Parliament. The Speaker of the Kenyan Parliament made a consideration and committed the petition to the Committee on Delegated Legislative Affairs for consideration. So early this week, the committee summoned the 4 commissioners. They're right now weighing the petition as to whether it's worth proceeding to a full hearing and determination of the case, in the sense that should they find a prima facie case against the 4 commissioners, then they'll recommend to the president, as per the law, to one option is to suspend the commissioners on a half pay while the process proceeds. So the next stage of the process would be appointing a tribunal which would investigate the commissioners and then report to the president with recommendation. Based on the recommendations, the president will decide if the tribunal finds the 4 commissioners culpable. The commissioners will be as good as dismissed, and the president will set in motion for the appointment of a declaration of a vacancy in the Electoral Commission and the appointment of new commissioners. But far from what it appears to be honest and while it appears to be a civil intention by this by the actors, the so-called the petitioners as they were, there are also political games at play, in the sense that whoever controls the Electoral Commission has one or more or less an upper hand, or maybe has one leg inside the room in terms of political contest.
Yeah, but
the
electoral umpire is called the IEBC, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission.
Boundaries
Are you
Commission,
saying
sure.
it's only independent in name, Allan?
Okay, that's a subjective matter. It's true that it's the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission, but far from reality. They are what happens in the boardrooms. We've seen what has been happening in this country. The other day, when the commissioners couldn't really agree, 4 out of 7 were dissenting based on a disagreement they had in the boardroom. So that just shows the extent of the political interests and punish machinations at play always. So it's
now, Allan, sorry to cut in here, and I'm glad you walked us through the process of how the select committee and the recommendations, how we would get through the end of this case. Now, my question to you is this, Allan. The elections were held, a new president has been sworn in. It seems like we're going back to the past. Why is this petition important, and why are we hearing it now? Is it that those that lost the elections are not happy, and is it what's really going on? Have Kenyans not moved on?
I would say it's a case of vindictiveness. You know that elections are usually highly polarizing, divisive contests. So what happened during that, as high stakes as the election was, remember the incumbent president at that time endorsed the Raila Odinga coalition. So it was a highly competitive and a high stakes game, in the sense that, so there's a feeling by the current ruling coalition that these 4 dissenting commissioners were part of a scheme to kind of influence the outcome and deny their candidate the presidential win, as it were. So it's more of a continuation of the kind of vindictiveness to kind of get the bad guys and subject them to punitive sanctions, Okay. And then further, we've got a presidential election coming up in the next 5 years. No one would sit pretty, really, knowing that there are 4 or so individuals who tried to bar you from being declared the winner in the last contest. So there are political actors and activists and political interests that are closely aligned with the current president and his governing coalition, are therefore more inclined to kind of get at these people and ensure that the playing field is leveled, as it were, as we approach the next contest in less than 5 years, really. And that's my take.
Okay. Now, Allan, Azimio's top leadership, Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, and former Justice Minister Martha Karua were in the chambers. I mean, these are the high command of the Azimio La Umoja coalition. The Justice and Legal Affairs Committee of the National Assembly began hearing the petition filed against the IEBC commissioners. They were here. They were in the chambers. What's their interest in this case for them to be personally present in Parliament? And what's their defense of the 4 IEBC commissioners? What's their interest in this case, really? And why are they sticking out their head for these 4 commissioners?
Oh, thank you very much. Just like political contests are, it would be natural for the Azimio coalition to be sympathetic towards the 4 commissioners, in the sense that whatever move that the 4 commissioners made at last time, had it gone through, would have been advantageous to the Azimio coalition. They raised grounds that the results as declared were not the property of the commission. They claimed that the chairman, IBC Chebukati, made a unilateral declaration, came up with a set of results that the 4 couldn't really own, So Azimio is naturally inclined to be in favor, or maybe to be sympathetic toward the 4 commissioners. Then secondly, Azimio coalition has been raising grounds that the current regime, the William Ruto coalition, is attempting to kind of have a total control of the institutions. William Ruto, the coalition so far managed to convince a number of members of parliament to defect from the Azimio coalition to his ruling coalition. And then they're also feeling that the judiciary is not currently as independent as it should be. So these are solid fears that should he have his way, elbowing out the 4 commissioners, he'll is with the number that he has in the ruling coalition, he'll have it easy appointing a fully compliant electoral commission ahead of the next contest. So it's more or less of fighting for playing the opposition role, as it were, trying to contain the excesses or maybe to limit the reach, the executive reach of the current ruling coalition.
But typically, what's the tenure of an electoral commissioner?
Oh yeah, electoral commission in Kenya is there's the possibility of going for there's a staggered appointment such that there's no single time whereby the entire commission should be vacant. Like right now, the IEBC chair Chebukati joined in 2016 together with the 2 other commissioners, the other 3. So their term ends
in January.
Ends at the beginning of early next year. So they usually go for a 5-year term, but then it's staggered in such a way that there is no total vacuum that occurs. So for right now, the country should be looking at the replacement of the 3 initial commissioners who joined towards the end of 2016. That's Chebukati, Professor Gulie, and then Molu. So these other 4 joined quite late. You remember the other 4 commissioners, 2 of them, one fled after the dispute that arose after the 2017 presidential election. Then 2 others resigned. Then the other one found his way out of the electoral commission in that manner.
Allan,
so
how are the commissioners appointed?
Yeah?
How are these commissioners appointed?
Oh yeah, vacancies are declared. Then eligible applicants file in their submission, make their applications. Then shortlisting is done. Then a panel to appoint the commissioner is usually constituted. Parliament plays a very prominent role. The candidates are interviewed, they are subjected to a vetting process, and then the ones that emerge as the best candidates are usually appointed. But so much political interest goes into that. There's also the aspect of regional balancing, though it's not on the constitution provides for regional balancing, but then there's that delicate balance. It's usually a give and take between the 2 ruling coalition, because the parliament ultimately has the final say in terms of who gets appointed.
And Allan, I believe being apolitical is also one of the reasons, one of the criteria for appointing these commissioners. That brings me to my next question. Former Prime Minister Raila Odinga has said the move was politically motivated and a continuation of the witch hunt mission that President Ruto is on. Elections are over. Why are we still getting this back and forth? And how are ordinary Kenyans reacting to this? Because we've seen both camps, political camps, trading blames. This is not a witch hunt. And President Ruto's camp says, they have to face the law because they were almost derailing the democratic process in Kenya. So what about electorates, ordinary Kenyans? What are they saying about all of these issues that are ongoing?
Okay, Kenya is a highly political country. Kenya is a country that is quite vibrant. It's a quite vibrant civic and political culture. People are always debating. And then the political fault lines never change that much after the elections. Even right now, those who cast their lot with the William Ruto coalition, very few of them, if elections were called today, would have had a change of mind. The same thing with the Azimio coalition supporters. So opinions are divided right now. There are those who feel that these commissioners need to be sanctioned for having tried to subvert the will of the people by kind of trying to delegitimize the win of William Ruto, as it were. Then the other side of the spectrum, there are also the Azimio coalition supporters who feel that the 4 are people who pursued a just cause, who are being punished in a vindictive campaign by the current ruling coalition. So it's more or less divided, 50-50 basis. Yeah, but we've got a robust constitution. We've got mechanisms for dispute resolution. Right now, the country is watching to see as whether the parliament go the full haul and commit the petition to the next stage of president appointing a tribunal. But there are going to be still legal battles. There's a possibility of people going to court to maybe circumvent the ongoing petition process if they feel that it's more or less kind of hurried over. It's too vindictive. People, they'll come up with all sorts of legal technicalities each side will come up with all sorts of technicalities and strategies to have their push their competitive interests, I mean.
Okay. Thank you, Allan. I'd like to bring in our second guest at this point. He's a member of parliament for Mukurweini constituency. His name is John Kaguchia. Welcome to the program, Honorable Kaguchia.
Kaguchia.
Kaguchia. Honorable Kaguchia, welcome to the program.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Now, Honorable Kaguchia, according to former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, the ouster process has kicked off while an existing petition in the National Assembly to remove the IEBC chairperson, Wafula Chebukati, has not been tabled. What do you make of this, and why is the Parliament prioritizing one petition and not the other? Is it sour grapes, or are there legitimate grounds for the removal of the IEBC chairperson, since there are petitions against him?
Thank you very much. I happen to be in the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee that is dealing with these petitions. The two petitions as they have been presented by the petitioners. We have four petitioners who have petitioned the National Assembly to remove from office the four commissioners, also called the four. They also called the Cherera four commissioners. The leader of that gang was Cherera, the deputy or the vice chairman.
Chairperson.
Yeah, the IBC vice chairperson. Now we have had only four petitions that have been received in Parliament so far. We do not have any other petition against the Wafula Chebukati. In any case, there wouldn't even be any need of handling Wafula Chebukati's petition, because he has finished his term and he is on his way out. He should be exiting in just a couple of days. Together with the other two commissioners who were together with him. They are all exiting the commission because they have had their term to the end, and so by the operation of law, they exit. And I do not think in any way there is any prioritization of the petitions which have been brought against the four commissioners, because we are handling the normal, usual business of the House in the normal way. Because these four...
Honorable Kaguchia, sorry to interrupt you. How does the House prioritize petitions and decide which ones to listen to and which ones should be prioritized?
Now, so far we are listening to all the petitions that we have received. We have received four petitions. And we are handling all the four petitions at one go. In fact, from yesterday, we've been listening. Yesterday, we listened to two petitioners. We had the Liberal... the Republican Liberty Party, and we had Reverend Ndumbi petition. Those are two different petitions. Today we had two other petitions. We had one by a gentleman by the name Jerry, and we had another one by the gentleman called Langat. Those are four petitions, and we are listening to all of them. And we hoped also to have the respondents, advocates, or themselves cross-examining the petitioners, but instead they escaped. They ran away. They said that the committee does not have jurisdiction, which is not correct. The committee has jurisdiction. The clerk of the National Assembly was able to determine that. The Speaker of the National Assembly was able to determine that the National Assembly, actually, Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs does have jurisdiction. And so we're dealing with all the petitions. We have not chosen or cherry-picked any petition to handle. We are handling all of them. And unfortunately for the commissioners, all the four petitions are against the four commissioners.
Now, Honorable Kaguchia, before I move to Allan, former Justice Minister and Vice Presidential, Deputy Presidential candidate to Raila Odinga, Martha Karua, criticized President William Ruto. She says, and I quote, "He is acting outside the law. The Commission Act clearly says 6 months to the end of the term of the chairperson of IEBC, a selection panel must be formed to start the journey of finding the new chair. Chebukati's term ends in January, like you alluded to, in a couple of days. And instead of forming a selection panel, she says William Ruto is busy trying to have the act amended so that he can have a selection panel that will create a commission after his own art. Honorable Kaguchia, you're a member of the Kenyan Parliament. How independent is the IEBC, and what do you make of Martha Karua's statement?
You know, Martha Karua is suffering from meddling. The Martha Karua and her side of the coalition meddled with the IEBC in the last formation when we were recruiting the 4 commissioners. Unfortunately, they meddled.
Do you have any evidence to back this allegation?
Yes, I do. Did you see them? Have you seen them coming to defend the 4 commissioners that they recruited? And you know, the 4 commissioners, like for example, one of them, Masit, was actually declared that she was hired illegally because she was hired when she had actually contested in a political contest within 5 years, which is against the law. But the judge said that by removing the Commissioner Masit, it would affect the running of the election. And so the judge allowed Masit to continue sitting for the election because she conduct of the election. And so some of them are there illegally. In fact, they're not supposed to have occupied the offices because they were being headhunted to come and do a certain activity for the formation of Azimio. And that is why you see the Azimio part of formation in Kenya is very concerned about the removal of the petitions, which are coming from the public, not from the government, not from the President's Ruto's office. This is coming from the public. And you know, this is clearly demonstrating that, in fact, they were subjective. In fact, they were working in cahoot with the 4 commissioners. And for us, we as members of parliament, our work is now to listen to the petitioners. And once we find that the petitioners have grounds to request the president to form a tribunal, that's what we will do. In fact, the National Assembly is not going to be removing the commissioners. What we are going to do is to ask the president to bring on board the tribunal to investigate the conduct of the 4 commissioners. And now, in the House, in the National Assembly again, we do have an amendment act to the IEBC Act so that a selection panel can be formed to now start the process now to bring on board other commissioners. 7 of them away now from the retiring commissioners and the ones who are being removed from office. We have now started a selection panel, or rather an amendment to the IEBC law, so that we can have a selection panel to help us in the recruitment of the commissioners.
Honourable, you've said these things about these commissioners, that some of them are tainted and their loyalties lie, they're political. Isn't this an indictment on the Kenyan Parliament for not doing a very good job in oversight in the screening process of these commissioners in the first place? Because you're only saying this now after the damage has been done, sort of.
No, what happened is that the government in the last regime, they actually used the state machinery to override. And of course, they were taking advantage of the fact that most of members of parliament were out there campaigning because they were recruited in the last couple of months before the general election. And so most members of National Assembly were busy campaigning in their constituencies, and also the senators were also in the counties campaigning. And so the government was using its machinery to do that. But to the extent that the National Assembly did allow commissioners who were tainted and who are not qualified to, or who are not capable of being appointed as commissioners, to that extent, the National Assembly did fail in its mandate. And that is why the Court of Law actually found, for example, one of them, Masit, she was not supposed to be sitting there in the commission, but allowed her anyway. And of course, I would imagine that because she has conducted the election as the court had envisaged, then the process to remove her from office should start immediately, even if she had not misbehaved in the National Election Tallying Center. She ought to have been removed because she was not brought on board in the right way, and she was not brought on board legally.
Now,
was not there legally. So I think for some of them, the goose is cooked, and they should allow the process of the legal process, the political process, legislative process to go on until the moment.
Now, Honorable Kaguchia, having established the fact that, the IEBC is not perfect and the Kenyan National Assembly made its mistakes in the past, are there any moves towards reforming right from the National Assembly to prevent this sort of things from happening? Because ordinary Kenyans and observers out there looking at the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission with specific, I want to look at the independence exactly, because the IEBC says it's independence. Going forward, next elections are in 5 years. What are the guarantee that reforms would have been made and that the IEBC will be truly independent and away from political meddling from any political factions?
Yeah, the selection panel that is now being created and the amendment that is being done to the IEBC law is to amend that, is to correct that, is to reform the selection committee so that we remove, when it comes to the selection committee, some of the, high number of members of parliament, so that we now bring on board the Law Society of Kenya, for example. We have given them a position in the selection committee. We have removed 2 members of the Parliamentary Service Commission. We have brought on board the Public Service Commission, 1 person, and 1 person from the Law Society of Kenya. And the Law Society of Kenya is also seen to be a very vibrant, independent, and objective body in Kenya. And the Public Service Commission is also an independent commission. So by removing members of parliament, because we had 4 slots, by removing 2 slots and retaining only 2 in the selection panel, with the idea here is to reform the selection panel so that it has non-politicians, it has non-members of parliament, and then eventually the members of parliament can be able now to independently oversight the process once the names are presented to the assembly for vetting purposes and for approval purposes. So that is happening, and I want to believe that that process is going to produce a better commission than we had before.
Thank you, Honorable Kaguchia. I'd like to bring in Allan Odero, also in Nairobi. Now, Allan, has President Ruto responded to the Azimio camp's charges on the move to remove this electoral commissioners? And, the charges that, this is a politically motivated witch hunt. What has Mr. President said on this matter?
He hasn't officially responded, but through his Twitter handle, there's been kind of a Twitter war between him and the opposition and the Azimio leader Raila Odinga, whereby Raila Odinga the other day said that cautioned the Ruto administration to be careful about the steps that they're kind of taking. He warned of a creeping dictatorship, that Ruto won't run the country as though he's running a jungle, in reference to the actions. It's perceived to be more aligned, the position is more aligned with the ruling coalition. So he said that Ruto should be ready for an opposition, like people will work towards, like Raila and the coalition represents won't allow him to run roughshod with the 4 commissioners and all related matters. Ruto has accused him of kind of, through the handshake, of having kind of led to manipulation of independent institutions. So Ruto feels that through the petition, it's the right time to correct and allow some independence back to our constitutional commissions and institutions. Yeah, so far that's it. But in terms of making
and I believe he also said this is the time to respect laws and not big men, in reference to Raila Odinga, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why those who look at it objectively would agree from what I was telling you, that it's a political matter everywhere, every other way. Political opinions are divided 50-50. There are those, I told you that the ruling coalition is naturally aggressive or not friendly to the 4 commissioners, based on the reasons I gave you. That's why you see Ruto's position Ruto's position is as it appears, and Raila's position is equally as it appears.
Thank you very much, Allan Odero. I'd like to bring in Honorable Kaguchia here. The question on the lips of people is, when are we expecting to know the fate of the dissenting 4 IEBC commissioners? You already addressed the issue of the IEBC chairperson, Wafula Chebukati. His term is up, and even if a petition is heard, it's of no significance because it's leaving anyway. But there's 4 dissenting IEBC commissioners. When are we going to get a verdict?
By next week, we will be having a sitting to listen to them, right of reply. So we will be expecting that the 4 commissioners will be able to present their responses to the petitions. That is, if they wish to do so. If they do not wish to do so, then we will have carried the day with the petitions.
Will they be doing it personally, or they will be represented by lawyers?
We expect they are free to send their lawyers or to come by themselves. But going with what we saw yesterday, their lawyers stormed out, in a very disrespectful manner, in a very condescending manner. They stormed out together with the Azimio members of parliament. And if you remember, during the time when they were giving press statements during the tallying of the results, they seemed also to be reading statements which were the same. The same wording that Raila Odinga had in his presser is the same wording that Cherera also had in her presser. And when they went to court again, the Cherera 4 or the 4 commissioners again went to the Azimio side, and they had the same argument, and they distanced themselves from the chair, Wafula Chebukati. And so they have been seen to work in synchrony with the Azimio side. And so everyone can almost see like they are working in cahoot as one team. Anyway, we expect that next week they will come and present their defenses and responses. If not, then we'll go on with the committee work, and after Tuesday evening, we will retreat for 2 or 3 days to make a report that then will be presented to the National Assembly. And I can tell you, by the time we have recess, we probably and hopefully should have presented the outcome of the committee's recommendations to the National Assembly for action. And of course, if the committee will find it necessary to recommend the president to form a tribunal, then the tribunal will be formed. And hopefully during the month of December, January, February, maybe then we should have the tribunal working to investigate further. And that is where now the commissioners will be tried in a more legal and in a more legal manner, away from the political arrangement that is there in the National Assembly when it comes to the investigations from the National Assembly, which would be seen to be more political than legal, although they are quite quasi-legal, quasi-judicial. In the tribunal, it would be much more judicial than it would be in the National Assembly. So we expect that by December, the commission, the tribunal should be formed, if at all. That is what the committee is going to recommend. If the committee does not recommend a tribunal and finds the petitions are lacking and they are not necessary, then the 4 commissioners will continue working for the IBC.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time, Honorable John Kaguchia, MP representing Mukurweini constituency. We do appreciate your time and insights on this conversation. And I'd also like to say a big thank you to you, Allan Odero, for being a part of this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're watching The Conversation on News Central Television. We just concluded our conversation on dispute over plans to sack electoral commissioners in Kenya. When we come back from this break, we'll switch gears and look at the brawl in Parliament over electoral reforms in Sierra Leone. What led to this brawl? What are its implications? We'll be discussing this and more when we return from this break. You stay with us. It's The Conversation